Here we are back together again, friends, for another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Going to talk to Brittany today, 30 years old, diagnosed with LADA in 2022. She's also got a mother with diabetes. There's a lot going on here in this I don't want to explain all this to you. It looks like I got some denial, some gestational. You're going to like it. Just jump right in. Please don't forget that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. Don't forget to save 40% off of your entire order at CozyEarth.com. All you have to do is use the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout. That's JUICEBOX at checkout to save 40% at CozyEarth.com. When you place your first order for AG1 with my link, you'll get 5 free travel packs and a free year's supply of vitamin D. Drink AG1.com/juicebox. Are you an adult living with type 1 or the caregiver of someone who is and a U.S. resident? If you are, I'd love it if you would go to t1dexchange.org/juicebox and take the survey. That's it. Just do that, please. Okay, let's a little more music and then we'll get right into it. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Eversense 365. That's a CGM that lasts a full year. Eversense CGM.com/juicebox. 1 year, 1 CGM. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get your supplies the same way we do from US Med. This show is sponsored today by the glucagon that my daughter carries, Gvoke HypoPen. Find out more at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox.
My name is Brittany. I'm from British Columbia, Canada, and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, or LADA, if you will, in 2022.
2022 with LADA? Did they tell you LADA that day?
No.
What'd they tell you?
I actually had gestational diabetes with my second pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
And then 18 months, I had all the classic symptoms. I kind of let it get a little far.
You were ignoring it?
Yes.
Was it something?
I was in denial.
Oh.
I think I knew. So like my mom has had diabetes for a long time, like since I was 2.
What, Brittany, your mom has...
I'm 30.
I'm sorry, your mom has type 1?
Well, she was diagnosed with type 2 2 years after I was born. When I was diagnosed, I was kind of like, she had always really struggled with her management to the point where like they wanted to commit her to like a psych ward because she just gave up at one point. Like she burned out so hard because nothing she was doing was working and she was so frustrated. And that was like a huge thing in our family. It was just like my mom's diabetes was like out of control a lot of the times. And so when I got diagnosed, I was like, something isn't right here because, knowing that my mom had diabetes, I kind of tried to do everything in my lifestyle to avoid that.
Yeah.
Even when they told me I had gestational diabetes, I was like in a grocery store. My husband and we were checking out and on my midwife phone, and she was like, yeah, like, I have the results of your gestational diabetes test. And, you have gestational diabetes. And I started sobbing. My husband was like, what is going on? Uncontrollably.
Right there in the Tim Hortons? You just fell apart?
It was in the grocery store. Yeah, we were checking out in checkout line. I just lost it.
What's that grocery store called? Is it a chain?
It was called called wholesale. It's like, I think it's a Canadian, it's like a smaller Costco type of deal.
Smaller Costco.
So they have like bulk items and everything.
That's a good way to describe Canada. A smaller Costco.
Yeah, smaller. Yeah, everything on a smaller scale.
So your mom. So let's go back for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom has type 2 diagnosed after you're like about 2 years old, and she struggles with type 2 diabetes so greatly. What, about 36 years ago, something like that?
I'm 30, so
I'm sorry.
So 28 years, I guess.
Where'd I get 38 from? We'll never know. So, so for a quarter of a century, Your mom's had type 2 diabetes, and she struggled with it so hard that she burned out so much they wanted to institutionalize her.
Yeah. So she told me like she just got so fed up that she's like, I'm not even taking my meds. Like she was on, obviously all the oral stuff and then insulin and everything like that. And she was just like, I'm not taking this anymore. Like it's not working. And, I think they just assumed like, well, you're not doing it right. And,
and so that back and forth, can I ask you a question? Is your mom's stability in question now that her type 2 diabetes is okay?
So she actually has type 1.
Oh.
So
Brittany, hold on a second.
There's a plot twist. So what, but like, it's kind of a hard timeline. So like, it's not, but it's like, diabetes, I was diagnosed in 2022, but like, and when I was a kid, when like my mom was diagnosed, she struggled. I struggled because I was like, holy, like this, diabetes sucks. Like, I don't want to end up like my mom and like have this massive struggle with my health. Like I'm gonna, to the extreme, take really good care of my body, watch what I eat, and
how long did your mom live misdiagnosed?
That entire time. So until 2022.
Wait, what the fuck? Are you serious? That's not, is that, I don't, listen, wouldn't she be dead? I don't understand any of this. Hold on a second.
She's gotten close. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't.
So what oral meds did they have her on?
I know metformin for sure. Like, I don't know too much. Like, honestly, it's just one of those things where, like, I don't really know the details entirely. Like, I know metformin was one of them for a long, long time, or is she even up into the point where they re-diagnosed her at my clinic that I started going to, she was still on metformin. And then I think she was on something else. I don't remember the name.
If you take insulin or sulfonylureas, you are at risk for your blood sugar going too low. You need a safety net when it matters most. Be ready with Gvoke HypoPen. My daughter carries Gvoke HypoPen everywhere she goes because it's a ready-to-use rescue pen for treating very low blood sugar in people with diabetes ages 2 and above that I trust. Low blood sugar emergencies can happen unexpectedly, and they demand quick action. Luckily, Gvoke HypoPen can be administered in 2 simple steps, even by yourself in certain situations. Show those around you where you store Gvoke HypoPen and how to use it. They need to know how to use Gvoke HypoPen before an emergency situation happens. Learn more about why Gvoke HypoPen is in Arden's Diabetes Toolkit at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Gvoke shouldn't be used if you have a tumor in the gland on the top of your kidneys called a pheochromocytoma, or if you have a tumor in your pancreas called an insulinoma. Visit gvokeglucagon.com/risk for safety information. So this doesn't make a ton of sense to me, because if I took you right now off of your insulin and gave you metformin, what do you think, you'd be dead in a week or 2?
Yeah, but she was on insulin as well.
Brittany. Yeah. Brittany, I need the whole story. Okay, all right.
It was just like a gradual, and the way she explained it to me, because a lot of it I kind of have blocked out of my memory because it was so bad.
Really?
Yeah. She's been through a lot.
No kidding. And it was hard on you as a child as well.
Yeah. She, and now even she has gastroparesis and
I bet.
Neuropathy. She has the laundry list of all that kind of stuff.
What province don't I want to live in? What'd you say again?
It was Ontario. I grew up in Ontario.
Oh my God. They don't even give you guys a hockey team. They know.
They have the Maple Leafs is Ontario.
That's Toronto. I know Ontario's the bigger picture, but Toronto's
people
a
think
city.
Of Canada, that's what they think of as Toronto. Toronto is Canada.
Toronto is Canada. I think of it as the Yukon, just so you know.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know what to say. That's not a Canadian thing. I've heard people from America and other places around the world have similar situations. So they told her she was type 2, gave her metformin, and then said, "Oh, you're really resistant. Here's some insulin."
Yeah.
And so, but she's living as a type 2 with type 1 diabetes, as an insulin dependent type 2. And is it your diagnosis that helps her figure out she doesn't have type 2 diabetes?
Yeah. So At the point of my diagnosis, which was 18 months after I had given birth to my son, you know, and the crazy thing for me is like, I went from like my first pregnancy was totally fine. Postpartum with that, I was totally fine. And then like, bam, the second I got pregnant with my second child, I had gestational diabetes, but not only that, they put me on insulin when I was gestational. Like it was to the point where like, you know, normally you can just manage with diet and exercise, and that's what they told me. And so that's what I tried desperately. Like I was like, you know, talking to the endocrinologist during my pregnancy, like often, because I was like, okay, I'm trying to have a snack here because my fasting blood sugars were the issue.
Yeah.
During pregnancy. And I would get up at like midnight to eat a snack because that's what they suggested. And, you know, I was trying everything with diet and exercise, and they're just like, you know what, we're sorry, but like you have to go on insulin, and that's just how it is. And like, I was devastated, but they were like, insulin is a tool, like, you know, and obviously, you know, but they don't understand my background, you know, like with what I've seen my mom go through and why being insulin dependent was so devastating, right?
Yeah. Did you feel like, oh my God, I'm gonna have her existence now? Or did you think I tried so hard and it still didn't work out for me?
I think both honestly. Okay. Yeah, both of those things. I didn't understand because I was just like, you know what I mean? Like I said, I've lived a lifestyle with the literal full purpose of not getting diabetes or having to worry about it at all on any level. So, you know, then I had my son, and I was like, okay, bam, I can wipe my hands of this, throughout all my stuff, my meter, my pens. I was just like, I'm good now. Like, cause you know, that's what everybody says, right? You got gestational, like there is a chance that you can develop it later on, but like everyone was like, you know, you're healthy and active and like, okay, you're good to go now, you know, like, so I was like, perfect. I'm done with this. I'm never having any other kids. Like, I don't want to deal with that ever again. And then, yeah.
Did that experience, now you have 2 kids. So when you had did you decide to have a second kid, or did it happen?
We wanted to, yeah.
Okay. So when you're making that decision, do you think to yourself, I'm going to need to use insulin again probably during that time?
Well, so I didn't have it with my first. I only had it with my second.
Only with the second. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
okay.
So that's why
I'm sorry. I
like,
apologize.
You know, I definitely, like I said, we don't really want a third. We have a pretty busy lifestyle, and our 2 boys are enough. They're busy too. So, but also like, even if I did have that sort of like, oh, it would be nice, there's no way. It was too much for me.
Is your mom doing better now? Like management wise, day to day?
She told me that her A1C is like the best it's been in like a decade or more.
Do you know what that means?
Like, I don't know what the number is.
Yeah.
I think she said it was in the 6 or 7s. And like,
oh,
honestly,
wow. Good for her. Well, that's terrific. Yeah. I've just, you know, if her A1C was always in the 12s and now it's in the 9s, and she's like, it's the best it's ever been. You know?
No. Yeah. No, I think when she told me, I believe it was 6 or 7, and I was like, whoa, because she still has struggles. I think it's hard for her to learn the new concept of like, I tried to explain to her like insulin to carb ratio and correction factors, and like I feel like, and like how to treat a low, because sometimes she'll be like, oh, I'm gonna eat some chocolate, and I'm like, you can't do that, like you know you shouldn't do that. That's not really what's gonna help you get your blood sugar up. It's just gonna spike you later. And sometimes I don't know if she doesn't care or she just, you know what I mean, like
how old is she?
51 or 50.
Wow.
She's in there. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Do you think she'll figure it out?
I hope so. I try to lead by example for her. I give her a hard time sometimes. I try not to. Like, I'll be like, you know, we talked about this. Like, you know, things that are high in fat are going to make your blood sugar go up later. Or like, you know, when you treat, like, oh, you know, I get on her case about it sometimes. But I hope she does. I think it's, you know, at least she has better providers now that can tell her that kind of stuff too. Like,
it would be hard to have worse ones. So
yeah, that's true.
What's your level of competency right now? Like how are you managing? I
felt pretty okay. Well, I mean, it's been kind of rocky because when I was diagnosed, my A1C was 14.5. And I am like a type A, like perfectionist. type of personality. So I did a lot of overcorrecting.
Did that make you low? I have always disliked ordering diabetes supplies. I'm guessing you have as well. It hasn't been a problem for us for the last few years, though, because we began using US Med. You can too. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514 to get your free benefits check. US Med has served over 1 million people living with diabetes since 1996. They carry everything you need, from CGMs to insulin pumps and diabetes testing supplies and more. I'm talking about all the good ones, all your favorites. Libre 3, Dexcom G7, and pumps like Omnipod 5, Omnipod DASH, Tandem, and most recently, the iLet pump from Beta Bionics. The stuff you're looking for, they have it at US Med. 888-721-1514 or go to usmed.com/juicebox to get started now. Use my link to support the podcast. That's usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Eversense 365. Get 365 days of comfortable wear without having to change a sensor. When you think of a continuous glucose monitor, you think of a CGM that lasts 10 or 14 days. But the Eversense 365, it lives up to its name, lasting 365 days. That's 1 year without having to change your CGM. With the Eversense 365, you can count on comfort and consistency 365 days a year, because the Eversense silicone-based adhesive is designed for your skin to be gentle and to allow you to take the transmitter on and off to enjoy your shower, a trip to the pool, or an activity where you don't want your CGM on your body. If you're looking for comfort, accuracy, and a 1-year wear, you are looking for Eversense 365. Go to eversensecgm.com/juicebox to learn more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I hate seeing my numbers out of range. It drives me nuts. So I've tried to kind of ease off a little bit because now a kind of hypo anxiety kind of has swung the other direction. I feel like I honeymoon for a long time. I even still, I just feel like my ratio changes a lot. Yeah, I know like variables are a factor, but it just feels like sometimes I never know how much to take. Or for the first little while, I definitely struggled with low. So I was like aggressively being like, I don't want to be high.
Do you think you were honeymooning at all?
I must have been for a while. And so I'll just give you the timeline. Like I was diagnosed with the diabetes. What happened was I went to my family doctor and I said, I had gestational diabetes runs in my family, and I have all these symptoms. And she was like, I think you're stressed. And I was like, okay, sounds good.
So you came with symptoms and they said, we think you're stressed? They said?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
And in hindsight, I should have been like, no, you're wrong. But I was so tired and I was so like, I didn't want to face the music either. So I was like, whatever. She's like, we'll send you for blood work. And at the time I was like, well, when can I get the blood work? Because I think I knew it was bad.
Right.
I couldn't sleep. I kept getting woken up by like my hands would start tingling like every night, and I'd be going to the bathroom all the time. And like I solo parent pretty often. So I kept being like, well, what if something happens to me and, my husband's not home or whatever.
Okay.
So I'm like in the doctor's office. I'm like, okay, well, when can I get the blood work? And she's like, well, I'll just lie and say that it's urgent. Because at the time we had to make an appointment to get blood work done. You couldn't just go up there and get it done.
How long was this going on for?
A while. I had lost a ton of weight and like I started losing my hair. And
the doctor didn't think it was urgent?
No.
What?
Yeah.
Was this Dr. Bombay from the old Bewitched TV show?
We have an issue with a lot of doctors in our town that, they come here because they have to, and they do like the bare minimum kind of. And I'm okay to say that.
Is it like a penal colony? What's going on? Like they're sending you like reject doctors from other places?
Well, they're like from out of the country, and so there's like a certain I think my understanding is like they have to go to certain locations before they can kind of move around to the rest of Canada. That's my understanding.
Brittany, why are you in a place that gets the tester doctors?
I don't know how I got here. I wish I wasn't though.
Are you? Can I ask a tough question?
Mm-hmm.
Are you financially disenfranchised?
No, our jobs just kind of rely on. We live near the ocean, so my husband's a fisherman, and I work for the Coast Guard, so we kind of need to be on the coast. And
okay.
Yeah, our jobs are here. That's pretty much.
I can't believe what's happened to the world. I just said financially disenfranchised when I meant. Are you?
I know what you mean.
I was like, Brittany, are you broke?
You can't leave.
Yeah.
Is someone holding you hostage there? Are you okay?
Brittany, are you tied to something? Do you need help? Scott, I live in a place where they send new tester doctors out to see if they're any good or not. Like, Jesus Christ. And they're not. My God.
It's unfortunate because I feel like a lot of people think of Canada and they're like, oh, you have free healthcare. Like, it must be, you got it made, like everything is so good there. And I'm like,
I'm American. I don't think most things that are free are good.
Yeah.
I think if something's worth something, somebody's charging you for it. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
what she said. So then I did go get my blood work done a couple days later. And I think it was like a Thursday or Friday when I got it done. And then Monday afternoon at like 4 p.m., she phoned me and was like, either they made a mistake on your blood work or you have diabetes. And I was like, I'm telling you right now, it's not the first one. Like I was just like, it didn't shock me.
Yeah, there's been a mistake made, but it's you and me being together. Yeah. I'm trying to get out of that right now if I can. Were you able to find a different doctor, by the way? Or is that your doctor? No.
And because we're so limited here, she was very confused. You could tell because she saw me and how thin I was and like how, and she was very confused by the numbers because she wouldn't say, like, you have type 1 or type 2. She was just like, you should go back to the hospital and get your blood work done again. And I was like, no. Like,
she really thought this isn't right. Do something else.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
We're so clearly.
I'm painting you the picture. Like, I'm not,
I went to medical school in a trash heap, and I'm here to tell you this is stress. I see it on you. Yeah. By the way, how much weight had you lost?
Oh gosh, probably like at least 20 pounds.
Were you trying to lose weight? Like,
no,
could you at least no? So
I was eating everything in sight. Like I couldn't. I was hungry. I was hungry.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor, but if I saw you, I'd be like, "Hey, you've got cancer or diabetes. Let's find out which it is." Something's wrong.
She didn't give me the time of day, but it happens so often here. Like it's not. I'm not the first person, and probably won't be the last. But
because you're all boat people. Wait, what's going on?
They just don't know. They just don't know. I guess.
Is the area you live in not very like suburban?
I guess you could say that. Like, I'm in northern DC. So yeah, we're kind of, if you will, isolated.
Mm-hmm. A little bit. How many moose do you see in a week?
Lots of deer. No, not really very many moose. But yeah, the deer, and they pretty much are my pets. Like they live in the backyard. So
they wander around every which way. Okay.
The closest town's like an hour and 20-minute drive with like nothing. It's just scenery. There's no gas station. There's no other towns in between. It's just straight highway.
Is your jacket made out of a beaver or otter pelt?
You would think.
No, I definitely would think. No. I mean, being that I've never been there and I'm just making this all up in my head, I'm predisposed to believe that you're wearing what I'm going to call penguin shoes. But apparently some little girl told me one time there's no penguins in Canada.
No.
See,
that would be nice.
I don't believe that either. So whatever. All right. So you get a diagnosis and so what do you, I have to understand, like, what's your A1C right now? My
last one was 5.5. I think it's gone up a little bit just because I was on steroids for like an illness that I had. So that was fun.
Tough time. Yeah. Needs a lot more
God,
basil.
yeah.
And yeah.
Like yeah.
Here's the reason I'm asking. Like, so it's only been not even 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got an A1C in the 5s. You're not honeymooning anymore. Is that correct?
I don't believe so. So, okay, let me get to that because so she's like, I don't know. She's like, you have diabetes. But because it was summertime and we live, somewhere where it's not like it's not very suburban. She was like, you need to talk to the diabetes. We have, I guess there's 2 different things. There was a diabetes nurse and a diabetes educator. So the diabetes nurse was away on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, I'll give you over to the diabetes educator until that other person is back. And in the time being, here's the metformin. And boy, did the metformin make me feel really sick. And I think there was a combination of like my blood sugar kind of coming down.
Yeah.
And like just the metformin in general.
Well, you were in DKA, right?
Probably. I mean, that's the thing. She was never like, oh, you should go to the hospital and get insulin and this and like she never said that. She
what
just
the
wanted.
What is wrong with everybody?
Yeah, I never ever. Yeah. So actually, the funny part is like when she called me. Yeah, like I said, it was like 4:00 in the afternoon, and I was actually just about to like. My son was going to have his birthday party, and we were hopping on a ferry to go to like an even more remote place. And she was like, you need to go to the hospital. Like they need to redo your blood work, and I was just like, no, I can't. I'm going on vacation. Well, and so she's like, if you start feeling sick, I think that's the part where she was concerned about DK, but she didn't want to say. She didn't say that, like she was like, if you start feeling sick while you're in this place, like go to the hospital and like don't eat any sugar or carbs. We were going to like a First Nations like reserve. My husband is First Nations, and we were going there for a feast and a pole raising. And I'm like, okay, so like what can I eat? Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm gonna be, there's not gonna be keto snacks on the menu, like so I lived off of like salad and like, fish and vegetables that entire week. It was miserable.
You were there for a week?
Pretty much, yeah.
God, I don't know. I'm irritated that a doctor just can't be direct with you. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
like, say,
I am too. Yeah. Like, I mean, I still am processing it, like, I know there was a girl in the podcast a little while ago where, her doctor kind of, or, she didn't get the proper diagnosis right away. And she was totally at peace with it, but like, it's not me. Like, I'm ready to go to war every day.
You're pissed about it. Yeah. Hey, I'm sorry. First Nations. Can you, define that for me?
Yeah. So my husband is LADA. So where in BC, there's a lot of like different First Nations communities. And so yeah, that's just where he's from.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah.
And so they're having this event. You go off for a week.
Yeah.
You eat like a fish and salad. Licking dust off tables, I imagine, stuff like that. Now, how close to dead are you by the time you get back?
I mean, probably pretty close. I mean, at the time I couldn't enjoy myself obviously because I was like, should I go to the hospital over here? Like, should I not? Like, what do I do? I feel like even if I did, if I had gone to the hospital at the time, they would have been like, they wouldn't have known what to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like even if they recognized DKA, they would have, I don't know what they would have done.
Is this confusion around medicine beyond diabetes where you are?
Probably. I think so. It's from what I've heard. Like I don't think it's diabetes specific, I think. But I mean, it definitely is like really prevalent with diabetes. Like I just feel like the understanding is so bare minimum. Like a lot of people in the North don't see an endocrinologist for their diabetes. And I'm like, that's not okay. So she was like, okay, go see the diabetes educator until you can see the nurse when I finally got home from my trip. So I do that. And then the diabetes educator tried to tell me I was type 2. And she was like, you can eat this many carbs per meal and blah, blah, this and that, try that out. And I was like, this is crazy. Like when I was sitting there and I was like, are you sure about that? Like, so I went home and I was like, okay, I'm going to try this now. And we went through the whole like, oh, no sugar in the house, blah, blah, blah. And I remember eating a meal and still my blood sugars were not great, obviously. And I was very frustrated. And I had a therapist at the time because during my 18 months postpartum, I just remember saying like, I felt like my nerves were shot. Like I felt so dysregulated all the time. I'm sure obviously my blood sugars were playing a part in that. And so I was telling my therapist all this stuff about how, all of a sudden I have type 2 diabetes. I'm like, I'm taking this medication, but I feel like it's not working. Like they're saying I can eat carbs, but when I do, like, I don't feel great and everything. And so she was like, I think you need a second opinion. And then I finally did see the diabetes nurse. And that's when she was like, you need to go to this specific clinic. It's in Vancouver. And she's like, I think you have, she called it LADA, like type 1.5, and she explained the whole thing. And I was like, oh, that made more sense to me. I was like, okay, we're on the right track now.
Brittany, did that feel better for you because you were trying so hard not to get what you thought was type 2 diabetes? Did it feel better that this wasn't something that you could have gotten in the way of?
It made a lot of sense.
No kidding.
Like it just it was like a puzzle piece that was missing in that moment when she put me on the track with this clinic and she was like, you should talk to them. And they were like, okay, I went there. And they did tests for antibodies and they were like, oh, we have a clinical trial for people who are newly diagnosed, still in their honeymoon period. Would you like to do it? Yeah.
What was it?
It's the drug is called ustekinumab.
Ustekinumab? Is that what you said?
Ustekinumab. I think that's how you pronounce it. Yeah.
Hold on a second.
I can't remember. It's also used for Crohn's. I can't remember the over the counter. Are you Googling right now?
Yeah. If I get any, oh wow. Stellara?
Yeah, that's it.
You went with the, instead of the brand name, you went with ustekinumab.
I couldn't remember that. I couldn't remember the actual.
That you remembered?
Yeah.
Immunosuppressive drug. Hey, I have a question. Mm-hmm. Your doctors can't figure out if someone has diabetes, but they're aware of this.
So this was a new doc. So finally, after I had seen the diabetes nurse, that was the one who was like, okay, I think you're type 1.5. There's a clinic in Vancouver who does research clinical trials, and they'll take you on as a patient for endocrinology. And, you need to get in with them. And at the time, anyways, my doctor had given me a hard time about getting a referral to there. And I know kind of why in hindsight, but so I did get one and I got in there. And my first appointment, they were like, yeah, it sounds like you have type 1 or LADA. This is what you need to do. You need to take insulin now. Explain the whole scenario. And then they're like, and also, we have this clinical trial. Would you be interested? And I was like, you know what? Yeah. Because at this point, I've seen the wrath of diabetes my entire life, essentially. And if I can do something to, make it go away or, help, be a part of some sort of solution, count me in kind of thing.
Tell me about the trial.
Yeah. So the idea is that it preserves what beta cells you have left, is my understanding. So unfortunately, I don't actually know if I got the drug or not because 2/3 of the participants get it and 1/3 gets a placebo. I actually just got home on Monday from doing my final appointment. Yeah. And I was asking her, do you think I got the drug or not? Or can you even say? And so they had to wait for my blood work to come back for next week. She's like, just send me a text message and kind of ask me where your beta cell levels are at. Cause that was part of the criteria. You had to have a certain amount of cells still remaining. So that's why being honeymoon, being you had to be within 3 months of diagnosis and you still had to have a certain amount of beta cells. Cause the idea is they want to see if the drug preserves those beta cells.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So I don't actually know if I got it or not. It's hard to say.
Will they ever tell you?
It was a blind study. So like I said, the only way I could maybe guess if I got it or not was if my beta cells like stayed the same or like as my understanding, which I don't know yet. So
gotcha. Well, I hope you got it and I hope it was helpful.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So this is sort of like Tzield here in the US.
Okay.
I think. Although yours is a monoclonal antibody. I don't know if Tzield is or not. Interesting. Well, I mean, it's fascinating that it went from like no information to this information.
Yeah, it was like 0 to 60 for sure. Like, but I feel like by the time I got diagnosed, I was just like, okay, let's just do it. You know, like I was just like, I understand how diabetes works. I've been around it enough. You know what I mean? Like by the point that they were like, hey, you need insulin, I was like, give it to me. Like I wanted it yesterday, you know, like as opposed to when I was just patient, I was like, keep that shit away from me. Like, I don't want that, you know, whatever. Like you said, it was kind of almost a relief, like that light bulb moment or like that puzzle piece where it was like, okay, this makes sense. You know, I feel like pregnancy maybe triggered it. Potentially, I'm not sure. But you know,
I mean, your mom's got type 1, so
yeah. So like I went to my clinic and they offered like the antibody testing and everything like that. They were like, yep, you have antibodies. Like that was another criteria for the study. And then I said to my mom, like, you know what, you should really get tested for antibodies too. Like the thing with type 1 diabetes, it's clinical diagnosis, right? So, or that's what they say here.
Okay.
But like, you know, my understanding is like the C peptide is what tells you, like, would it not? Isn't there a test you can do that outside?
I like your mom getting the antibody testing, obviously. I mean, at this point now it's 20 some years. Like, I mean, she's managing the way she's managing, but
yeah,
I mean, here you would do it, I mean, to know or to have like better insurance coverage for self or that kind of thing. But like, you know, for your peace of mind even. But I mean, so once she finds out, does she shift? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but like the use for insulin for your mom for type 2 was what? They gave her basal? Did she have a meal insulin, like a mealtime insulin?
Yeah, but I'm not really sure how she was using it. Like, because when I say insulin to carb ratio to her, I don't think she knows. Like, I don't think she had a clue what I was talking about.
Also, is she testing her blood sugar? Is she wearing a glucose monitor?
Yeah, she has a Libre. She had a Libre for a long time.
Okay.
But like, obviously, something she was doing wasn't working. Like,
yeah.
So then she gets referred to the clinic that I'm at, and they take her on as a patient. And we went down there for a trip, and she got the test, and they were like, "Yeah, you have the antibodies. Like, you know, this whole time you've actually been a type 1, and you know, but you've been trying to manage like a type 2, and that's why."
Yeah, you're having so much trouble. What was her emotional response to that?
I think she was also kind of relieved, or you know, she was like, okay, like, because I know she had been frustrated with her diabetes care team / management for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think she was just like, oh my God, like finally it makes sense as well. Kind of like similar to me. I don't know if there was more to it.
Yeah. It also probably feels like you didn't do anything wrong. And then there's.
Yeah. Cause I mean, that was like a theme, right? For her. Like, I feel like a lot of people were like, oh, you just aren't doing it right for years. You know what I mean? I can imagine.
I want to be clear. That's what I meant.
Shitty.
I meant the management, not the type 1 versus type 2, like the actual management of it. Like, oh, if I had known that, maybe we would have done something different. Jeez. Does she have a pump now?
No. So I am starting the process of getting a pump this month.
Okay.
And I'm hoping it encourages her. I know she's like really hesitant to trust technology. And like, I understand that completely. Like the clinic that we go to now is very like technology oriented. They really like, obviously, like they're into clinical trials, into research. Like I feel like my endo, like it wants to be the first man on the moon he wants to find the cure. Like he's very like boom, 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 like clinical trial. Like I just finished that one. And then he was like, you know, there's the other one. I was like, no, that's great, but I need a break.
How did you find a better clinic?
I honestly look, because to be honest with you, like when I went and saw the diabetes nurse, she, for some reason, like, and she works in the same building as the diabetes educator. She knew about this clinic and the other person didn't mention to me whatsoever. And she was like, this is where you need to go. And I was like, okay, like done. I almost canceled my appointment with that diabetes nurse after having my one with the diabetes educator, because when she told me I was type 2, I was like, you're out to lunch. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, I'm sure the diabetes nurse is just going to be the same. You know what I mean? So I was like very just frustrated and discouraged. And the last person I wanted to see was another diabetes person telling me that, I was type 2 and this and that, when it just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Okay.
So I almost canceled that appointment and I didn't. And I went there and she was like, oh no, I think you're LADA. I think that, you need to see this clinic. And I think she even knew about the trial. And so I was like, how? I was like, you need to go talk to your friend down the hall.
It makes me wonder how many people in that area are walking around with a misdiagnosis.
A lot. I'll tell you right now. I bet you there's a lot, because I've encountered, I speak pretty vocally about my diagnosis, because there's so many people that don't realize you can get type 1 as an adult, and physicians including, obviously.
Really? Yeah.
And so many. And since my diagnosis, I've talked to, well, at least one other person, but someone actually just messaged me recently, a family friend, and was like, hey, I'm pre-diabetic. And I'm like, whoa, that doesn't, I would look into that if I were you. I was like, you should ask for a C-peptide test. Getting
that test is not difficult once you ask for it?
No, because what I don't understand is I'm pretty sure I had one done, I don't know if it was after the fact. My family doctor requested one after the fact, maybe.
Okay.
Once she realized what my A1C was, she thinks she did one then. And I was like, well, if you're asking for one, then don't you know what the purpose of it is? It was very confusing. But I feel like it happens a lot where the physicians here don't realize you can get it as an adult, and because even my clinic, I voice my frustration every time I go there. I'm like, you guys rely on catching people on their honeymoon phase and being diagnosed properly and on time. How are you going to finish your study if that's just not happening? It's they were like, yeah, we know, that's our frustration. And I was like, is somebody going to do anything about this? How does this just keep going? My thing was what really opened my eyes. I was like, okay, this happened to my mom, 28 years ago, when I'm assuming there wasn't very much of an understanding about type 1 diabetes, and that there was adult onset and they thought it was just juvenile. But I'm like, it's, almost 3 decades later and nothing has changed. And you guys, some people know and some people don't. And you know what I mean? I was just very how did this almost happen again?
Yeah.
How did history almost repeat itself? I was like,
I mean, it sounds like it's happening a lot. Yeah. So you're looking into a pump, hoping your mom's going to get a pump.
Mm-hmm.
You use a CGM now, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there other autoimmune issues in your family line, with your mom, with you, with your husband, anybody else?
I think my mom has arthritis. I don't know if that's autoimmune.
I mean, RA is, but not just arthritis in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure about anything else that I don't think there is.
Thyroid, celiac. No.
Nope. Diabetes is just pretty much rampant through my mom's side of the family. I don't actually know my medical history on my dad's side of the family, because my parents used a sperm donor. So I don't know who my daddy is.
Okay.
I don't know. That whole side of the medical thing for me is just unknown completely, which is kind of sucky. But I'm pretty sure all of my, health things, not when I say all, but my type 1 diabetes and, come from my mom, obviously.
Okay.
Her
at the very least, you know about that, and she has it. And there was a lot of diabetes on your mom's side?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my grandmother had it. I don't know if my grandfather did or not. I'm pretty sure he did.
Do you know what type?
And then my uncle. I'm assuming they were both just type 2, or that's what they said they were, right? So,
yeah, how would we know?
Actually know.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
My biggest concern is my grandmother had really bad dementia, Alzheimer's, dementia, all that kind of stuff. I worry about that for my mom, just because I know how bad her blood sugars have been for a long time. Because I said, she's got everything else, she's got the neuropathy, she's got gastroparesis, she has just a long list of things that have come from her diabetes management just not being what it should be.
What made you want to come on the show? What prompted you to reach out?
For me, I always it makes me so frustrated and emotional. Like I watched my mom's life pretty much just be ruined in my mind by diabetes because of one misdiagnosis and because nobody took the time to be like, you know what, maybe we should like listen and reassess the situation instead of like, hey, we should lock you up because you don't want to, you know what I mean? You don't want to take your meds anymore because you're so burnt out.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
That like there needs to be a change. Like it baffles me because it's like, I'm just a regular person and I had to understand all of this in, like at the drop of a hat because of my diagnosis. Like, why can't medical professionals do the same? Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like it's not that hard to understand. People need to know, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like especially now because I think COVID's like triggered a lot of autoimmune things. And like I said, my family friend that I've known for a long time, again, really healthy lifestyle. And they are like, oh, you have pre-diabetes. Like, I'm sure they probably tried to tell him he was type 2. I think that he mentioned that to me in the message that he sent me. And I was like, you should ask for a second opinion. And it's like, a lot of people go to their doctor and they just take their word for everything. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not that type of person because of my experiences.
Yeah, you have to be. I mean, you just genuinely have to. And I shudder to even call it like advocating for yourself at this point. Like I don't think it's advocating. I think you just have to wonder if the person that you're dealing with has, your best interest at heart, or if they're just following a plan, or, even if they were educated well, or, having a good day or whatever. Like, I mean, even a great doctor has a bad day. What if that's the day they see me? And so forget the idea of advocating. Advocating to me feels like forcing somebody to do what they're supposed to do for you. Like, I think you have to take, I mean, I'm looking for another word, but I don't know why. Like, I think you need to take responsibility.
Yeah. At this point, yeah. I just remember my mom being the type of person who would be like, well, the doctor said, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. If what you're experiencing is not lining up with what the doctor is saying, then
even if it is, you should have more than a cursory understanding of something that's happening to you.
Yeah. And I feel like that's just not the case. And like, especially where we live right now, like I said, the doctors they don't give you the time of day and they just want to band-aid things and they, you know what I mean? They're going to tell you that you're stressed.
Sounds like you live on the dark side of the moon.
It feels like it honestly does. And it's really stressful. Like, we have kids and I worry about their health and, our ER like closes because we're short staffed for doctors and stuff. So it's like, it's a very stressful place to live. Cause like you said, the closest town is like an hour and 20-minute drive away from here. So like,
you have an emergency room that shuts down because of staffing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like a recently new development that it's been like that, but it's very stressful.
Jesus. Can you move?
I want to. I do. I really do.
But you're there for work, right? Tell me again, what is it you do?
So I work for the Coast Guard. I'm a Marine Communications and Traffic Services Officer. So like we answer Mayday calls. We regulate marine traffic. Like we talk to all the cargo ships and cruise ships and anybody who's of size to transit Canadian waters. We give them we process their clearance requests and everything. Like we're talking to mariners all day long. So pretty stressful job. But there's only 2 centers on this coast, and the other center is it's a very expensive place to live, and it's just not where we want to be. And then my husband is a commercial crab fisherman, so he is gone for days at a time, and he fishes in the local area. So it's hard to find another. It's
the job's holding you to the coast, and the coast doesn't have a ton of people living there, so you get spotty services. Is that about how it works?
Yeah, it's just not it's not a very desirable place to live in some cases. I mean, some people really love it here,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people who don't have diabetes.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, mm-hmm. I had a woman message me a couple weeks ago saying she has hypoglycemic episodes, but they wouldn't give her, her insurance wouldn't cover a CGM because she's not insulin dependent. And so she was really struggling. And so a lot of the doctors here don't like to refer people to endocrinologists. They like to try and manage people with diabetes themselves, which I don't know why. I don't know if it's a financial reason. They won't. Yeah. give referrals. It's like they gatekeep like crazy. And she was like, my family doctor is leaving. So I saw your post about the clinic that you go to from a little while ago. Like, could you give me some information on that? I want to get a referral. And I was like, absolutely. And I happened to have some extra G6s that I don't feel like. I switched to the G7 and I was just kind of keeping them as backups, but I didn't really need them. I was like, you can have these, until you can get what you need. Because that's ridiculous that you can't, she was like, I have a son, like, and, I wake up in the middle of the night because I have hypoglycemic episodes and like my doctors don't listen to me or believe me or whatever. And I was like, that's ridiculous. But it happens so often. Like,
that's so defeating. Honestly, the entirety of this story is defeating. It's just, I mean, you want to think that people have equal opportunities, but it just isn't the case. And I mean, not that we all don't know that, but it's interesting to hear someone actually say it, and tell a story of living through it, which is, Jesus, like,
it's frustrating. And that's why, like, any opportunity I get, I'm telling people about like the clinic that I go to, because they're always taking referrals. And I'm like, I have a couple of coworkers who have type 2 and they were mentioning their frustration with seeing their family doctors about it. And I was like, ask for a referral. And one of them did. And it was the same thing, like, oh, you don't need to, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but they would like to. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not, they just don't feel like it's necessary. They don't want to lose a patient or whatever. I'm like, but at the same time, they complain about being overworked and whatever. But it's like, I don't know. Like, I feel like they're just trying to line their pockets and they don't really care about people's quality of life is what it feels like. And
how do they get paid is my question.
I'm not sure. Like, they work for our health department. So and it's crazy because they do, like, they have their practices, right? And then they also work in the ER. So like they're doing both. They're not getting, they're getting paid pretty well. And they're, you know what I mean? So it's not like they can't afford to outsource someone's at least diabetes management. Like, you're still going to be their family practitioner for other things, but like, let them see a specialist for their diabetes management. I just feel like, they don't think it's necessary. Like, I think they're just like, well, it's just diabetes. So why would you need to see a specialist?
You also think it's about keeping you siloed with them.
I think so. Part of it. And like I said, like, I think any time that I've tried to get a referral from my doctor, it's like pulling teeth. I'm like, do you pay out of your pocket when you submit a referral for me? Or like, does someone like take you outside and beat you because you put in a referral? Like, I don't understand it. I really don't.
Put in a referral to someone kick your kid? What's happening
that's
exactly?
How it feels. That's honestly how it feels. Every time I make an appointment, I just dread it because I know I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to fight for this and
interesting.
And like, I'm gonna have to make my case, and I'm gonna have to, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like you said, it's very defeating.
No, I hear you. That sucks. It really does.
Yeah, I just feel like, and it's, like I said, I feel like misdiagnosis happens so often. I'm in a lot of like Facebook groups for like LADA and stuff, and people like, oh, hey, I'm new here, but I was misdiagnosed for the last 5 years. I'm just like, damn, like, when is this gonna end? It's just,
oh no, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Your stories, your misdiagnosis story is incredibly common.
Yeah,
it really is
frustrating for me because, like I said, you're ruining someone's life. Their health is gonna greatly suffer.
Well, I try to make this point all the time, and I imagine that at times I sound like I'm sounding some alarm, but it really happened to your mom.
Yeah.
Like, she lost 20 plus years of her life to this misdiagnosis. It really does happen like that.
Yeah.
And, like, it just takes bad circumstance with a bad doctor, and then you fall into a rhythm and you're sick all the time, or you're unhappy, or, God knows what was happening to your mom. Like, her blood sugars were probably all over the fucking place. And then, and then 20 years goes by, and now she has problems from it on top of all that.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, now even, you're not going to reverse those either. So it's like, now, okay, finally she has the proper diagnosis, and like, maybe her A1C is coming down, but like, the
she's
damage
still going to have
done.
problems.
You know what I mean? The damage is done.
I
just remember she was always very like, not angry, but she would definitely have a temper. And like, I'm like, I can, your blood sugar's high, you're irritable. Like, that's just how it is. But at the time, I was like,
now you know that better than any.
Chill out,
Yeah, Why can't you just tell me? Because my blood sugar is 425.
Yeah.
That's why. And my brain's not working correctly.
Like I said, my whole childhood, it was just like diabetes was like that dark cloud for my mom because, over our whole family too, because she had so many health problems as a result. And like, she, and emotional, like mental health problems from it. So like I said, to the point where I desperately was like, I'm not going to have diabetes when I get old. Like, I was like, I'm going to do the complete opposite of everything my mom does. And like, when I was a teenager, I developed an eating disorder because I was like, I'm just going to eat so healthy. But then I obviously was obsessive and like, I was like, I'm just going to eat nothing.
Jeez. Well, Brittany, that didn't work out. So, yeah.
And so it's this huge like intersection for me when I get diagnosed, because I'm just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. It's like all these things that make sense, but now it's like, I don't know, it's just very hard kind of listen almost, where it's like, I gave my mom a hard time also because I was like, damn, why can't you just manage your diabetes? Why can't you just be happy? Why can't you just, you know what I mean? Like,
you were like a handle your shit mom person.
Yeah, and, I was like, why are you, you know what I mean? Like, I understood she had diabetes. I was like, it can't be that hard. Like, I don't understand. I never understood as a kid why she couldn't just manage it. You know what I mean? I was like, why can't you just get your blood sugars under control? And I was so frustrated with her. Like,
do you lose respect for her because of that? Do you feel bad about that?
I was like, why can't you just take care of yourself, Which I obviously feel bad for that now because I'm like, it wasn't your fault.
Have you said anything to her about it?
No.
Aw, Brittany, come on. You could go tell her you're sorry.
That's a tough conversation to have.
No, why? How come?
I don't know. I don't know. It's just, there's a lot. Like I said, we've been through so much. And I give her hard, like, obviously, like, so my eating disorder got really bad when I was in high school to the point where I was admitted to the Children's Hospital in Toronto.
Okay.
Hospital. And my mom, like, she already was dealing with so much. And then she's got to deal with my BS. Like, it was like, and I'm not going to say that diabetes was the reason. I was in dance and body image was a thing. And, I was a very anxious kid. And like, there was just so many things that triggered me to like go down that road, obviously. But like I said, there's a lot of times where I was like blaming, obviously, and being like, well, you eat this food, so obviously that's why you have diabetes. And like, you can't manage your blood sugar. So, well, whatever. And like, give her so much slack. But that was the narrative, right? So,
okay.
And I feel like it still is in some instances.
I'm not going to let you off the hook, though. Hold on a second. Why can't you just apologize to her?
Oh, no, I definitely understand that. But we just don't have those conversations. Like, that's a deep conversation.
It's, Mom, I'm sorry. Brittany, what else is going on?
It feels like there's just so much like that it would unravel almost. You know what I mean? Like,
you're not hold on. You're not afraid of telling her you're sorry. You're afraid of what happens if you start being honest with your mom?
I think she knows. I mean...
No. You keep deflecting.
I don't really know how to start that conversation. It just feels like a lot.
You go like, hey, Mom, I want to tell you something. I feel badly about how I treated you back when you thought you had type 2 diabetes and I kept telling you to take care of it. And now we learn you have type 1 and you were really at a disadvantage. And I just wanted to let you know I apologize. There, I did it for you. Now,
I'm just going to be like, you know what, Mom, you should listen to this because God apologizes on my behalf.
Is this too deep? Do you not want to talk about this?
No, I mean, it is a conversation.
What happens next? What do you imagine happens next? All right, ready? Listen, we'll play act. Mm-hmm. I'll be you be your mom. Watch this. Oh, hey, Mom, it's me, Brittany, eh? And then, right? And then I hold on a second.
That's good.
Thanks. I feel bad. I just want to tell you.
It's Brittany, bitch, but anyways, continue.
Oh, yeah. It's like that, eh? And so, and I brought over, I rode over here on a moose to tell you that, that I've been thinking about it lately. And you spent so many years living with type 1 diabetes, thinking it was type 2 and not having the right tools or right direction. Mm-hmm. And there were times, I know, there were times that I was hard on you about your management. And I just wanted to say, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And I'm sorry. I hope you accept my apology. Now, you be your mom.
I don't know what she can say.
What are you afraid she's going to say?
Nothing. I just think it would be so emotional. I don't think I'm...
Well,
you know what my problem is?
Why would that be a problem?
Because we're not good at that. We're not good at dealing with our emotions, I don't think. Like, sad, we're not.
Like, you think she would cry?
I think I would cry. I don't think I'd be able to get through. I'm like kind of tearing up right now when you say that. When you made that like little speech, like for me to say that, I would cry. I would.
When's the last time you cried?
I cried the other day. I finished a half marathon and I cried. But like, it's not like, it's like a superficial, like I was like, okay, I'm proud of myself. But like when it comes to like really digging into, because it feels like it was a trauma, like dealing with all of that kind of stuff, like for both of us, like medical trauma or whatever. Plus, like there's so many other things that we went through together that just talking about it, like it's going to turn into
like catching salmon with your teeth. What are we talking about?
Like things that we went through.
Yeah.
Like I said, the eating disorder was a whole thing. And then like my dad, like my parents' relationship, like they separated when I was 3, but then nobody told me until I was 16 that, my dad wasn't my dad, like the person who I thought was in charge. I don't know. There was a lot of turmoil. And my mom and I, we have a good relationship, but we don't talk about the things that weren't good.
Brittany, can I make an assertion?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say I have a good relationship with your mom if you can't tell her a basic thing like I apologize.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't like Go ahead.
Unspoken. Kind of. No, it's not.
That's what people say who don't want to apologize.
Yeah.
She knows. It's all right. So let's say she does know. Let's say she does know. You guys have a good relationship. She loves you. She's not holding any animosity towards you or anything like that. She knows. What would it hurt? Don't you think she'd just love it if you told her? Would you like it if she apologized to you for things she hurt you for?
Yeah.
Would you hurt your kids?
I think that would
and
be
not
hard for her.
Well, I don't care about that. Would you hurt your children and then not apologize to them?
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that.
Now, what are we fucking talking about then, Brittany? Just go tell your mom yourself. Write it down.
Okay. You know what? Mother's Day's coming up. I will.
Brittany, now you're thinking in a Mother's Day card. I want. Do you want to write this down or what? So I think what you say is, I wish I could say this to you in person, and at the moment I'm not sure why I can't, but I hope that one day I could. Boom.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot lately about your life with diabetes and how you were misdiagnosed and how difficult it was for you to try to help yourself. I realize how frustrating that must have been. And I've looked back and seen that there were times that I gave you crap about how you took care of yourself. And I am really sorry to have added to your frustration. And I want to apologize.
Yeah.
There. Are you crying?
I'm almost.
Well,
I'm getting
cry, Brittany. We're making a podcast. What are you doing? Just
I don't want to cry on a podcast.
Poke yourself in the face or something until it hurts. All right. So anyway, you don't have to do any of these things.
Because,
you can cheat with the Mother's Day card and she'll think it's great because you guys are walled off emotionally.
Yeah.
It's
true. Unfortunately, it is true.
Do you
like
want...
I moved out, because I was moving to a different province, and like I think that was tough for her because I was always like, I'm gonna stay home forever, and like I was just like, see you later.
I'm going, eh? And she's like, all right, I'll see you later, eh?
It was hard for her. So she wrote me a letter to read at the airport. And it was kind of similar to what you just said, but it was about some other things. And I was like, I was crying in the airport. And I was like, okay. So I think that's it. We're just like we're a letter. Well, we're going to write it down.
Okay. Well, then there we go. How's your handwriting?
Yeah.
Will it
be pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll type it out at work.
Well, that I tell you right now, we'll take out all of the personal attachment to it. So
I can put some emojis though.
Emojis. If you put a fucking emoji in that note, I'm gonna go all the way to wherever the hell you are and smack you in the head. Okay?
I'd love to meet you. So.
Well, not like that, because the first thing I'm gonna say is, Brittany, did you put a fucking smiley face and a heart in your mom's Mother's Day card? So just, I would write it out first. You can type it out, but then I'm a big fan of then sitting down and writing it out by hand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think putting a typed note in someone's Mother's Day card is anti what we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you really going to do this, or are you just like placating me?
No, I feel like I should. Like, so my problem is like, I feel like I've been so worried about myself for the past, since my diagnosis, because it's been overwhelming for me, like, I don't know. I just feel like I haven't really gotten, and then I try not to, I want to help her with her diabetes. And I think she realizes like, why. And it's kind of like I said, because I watched her struggle so much. I'm like, okay, mom, like, this is what you got to do. Like, it makes so much sense now. Like, I don't know if that bothers her or not. Cause like I said, I was hounding her about the insulin pump. I was like, man, that'll help you so much. And
maybe that's the end of your note. The postscript to your note is now that we both have this going on, I really think it would be beneficial for both of us if we teamed up and learned as much about this as we could, so we can take really great care of ourselves and spend as much time together as we possibly can. Mm-hmm. Look at me. Yeah. I should write this shit for a living.
You should.
Yeah. Brittany, when I was in my 20s, I thought I was going to start a greeting card company.
Oh, it's never too late. You should
I don't think
actually, no, because you're then
I won't make the podcast. Yeah, I'll be busy. But I wanted to start a greeting card company, but with like really adult themed, racy, terrible messages.
Oh, I would love that.
I thought it was going to be amazing.
That's my kind of humor. That's like, if I could be like, kind of make it a dark humor, like apology to my mom, then like that's kind of the level that we're at.
Yeah.
We don't really get to like sensitive, emotional. We don't go to those places really. So that's why I'm like, I don't even know how to start that conversation. Like, that's what I mean. Like, I feel like it's just, she sees me.
You guys fist bump and then that's it.
So she's like, oh, okay, she knows now.
Talking to each other is very important.
Yeah. It's important. Yeah. My mom does a lot for me. And, like I said, because I work 12-hour shifts. So, and whenever my husband's away, like, she's here helping with the kids. And we do, like I said, I know it sounds crazy to say we have like a close relationship, but
you can be close.
These kinds of things, but
you can be close without having like intimate emotional connection. Like, there's close, like physically close, and there's being there for each other and all that stuff. There's nothing wrong with any of that. That's all lovely. But, like, to be able to look someone in the eye and say, hey, I did something bad to you and I feel bad about it. I wanted to tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not just here to relieve myself. I'm here to just to
like validate her almost.
To validate what you've been through and to open myself up and be naked right here in front of you and tell you I f***ed this up and I'm so sorry,
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you a piece of advice. My wife taught me this over 20 years. After you apologize, you don't then explain why you did the bad thing. That's wrong. You're not supposed to do that. Okay. You don't go, but you don't understand. Here's what happened. Yeah.
Like, explain what you're apologizing for, but not like,
but don't start making up excuses for why you did the thing in the first place. Yeah. Well, you are a girl, you know not to do that, but I'm a boy. I don't know not to do that. I'm like, it's not my fault.
But and then just like,
you don't understand what was happening to me at the time. I was having a lot of trouble. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't ever want my mom to feel like I say that, it affected my childhood or whatever, but I don't want her to feel like that's her fault or like, it's obviously not. Like, that's kind of.
Let me ask you this last question. I'm going to leave you with this lingering thought to torment you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want your kids to grow up and not feel comfortable talking to you like that?
No, I would want them to.
You think that happens magically, Brittany? How do you think that happens?
No, no. And we definitely I feel like I have a different relationship with my kids. Hopefully, I just.
Well, they're little. They're like little people. Well, when they're adults, though, how it gets once you're an adult is it doesn't always go the way you are with them when they were little, because sometimes people just have trouble being open like that with somebody who can really I guess understand the conversation. Like when you're being really sweet to a kid, it's easy. They're not judging you. Right? But once you and I don't even mean judging in a bad way, but you're not being judged. And they're not looking at you and really thinking like, why is she saying this? Like, what does she mean by this? Like, they're not having those thoughts yet. So it's easy to be nice to little kids. I'm just saying, if you want that with your kids, you're going to have to figure out how to do that with your mom. And time is of the essence.
Yeah. Yeah. I think part of me was just kind of like, the communication wasn't great between my mom and I. And like, I felt like it was kind of a lot, like not, a lost cause, but like, anytime that I've tried to have those conversations with my mom, I feel like she kind of goes into like defense mode. And so
you can't have an expectation of her response.
No. Yeah. I mean, like I just feel like the communication thing, I try to have different forms of communication with my kids. But it's like, I can still try again with my mom as well too.
This is so nice. Hey, listen, if you guys get into a fight and stab each other, please don't blame me. I had nothing to do with it.
I know that you already made that disclaimer about nothing I say.
Oh yeah, nothing you hear on the Juicebox podcast should you try to expect that I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're just talking. But no, I mean, I know you Canadians get stabby. So like if somebody gets, I don't want to, it's not my fault. Okay.
I know. I think that I would rather get stabbed than get emotional, but it's fine.
Could you just stab me instead of me having to apologize to my mom, please? Like that would be better. And hit me while you're at it. It's fine. Just I don't want to tell that woman I'm sorry. I really don't. Yeah. Well,
happy Mother's Day. Here's a knife. Like, I don't.
Happy Mother's Day. This is my Mother's Day. This is my Mother's Day episode. It'll come out like 6 months after Mother's Day, but still. Well, oh yeah. So while you guys are listening to this right now, think back 6 months ago. What did you get your mom for Mother's Day? Should have apologized. I thought the other day, I thought to just tell my wife I was sorry randomly. And when she asked for why, I'd go, I don't know. I must have done something.
Just a blanket apology.
Yeah. I should maybe do it every week. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm really sorry. For what? I'm like, I don't know. Whatever I did. I didn't mean it. So.
It doesn't count if you don't know what you're sorry for.
All right, Brittany. I don't understand why you won't get a job that's not near the water, but that's for another day. I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you doing this with me very much. Thank you. I'd like to thank the Eversense 365 for sponsoring this episode of the Juicebox Podcast and remind you that if you want the only sensor that gets inserted once a year and not every 14 days, you want the Eversense CGM. EversenseCGM.com/juicebox. 1 year, one CGM. A huge thank you to one of today's sponsors, Gvoke Glucagon. Find out more about Gvoke HypoPen at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. You spell that GVOKEGLUCAGON.com/juicebox. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast was sponsored by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get started today with US Med. Links in the show notes, links at juiceboxpodcast.com. If you or a loved one was just diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and you're looking for some fresh perspective, the Bold Beginnings series from the Juicebox Podcast is a terrific place to start. That series is with myself and Jenny Smith. Jenny is a CDCES, a registered dietitian, and a type 1 for over 35 years. And in the Bold Beginnings series, Jenny and I are going to answer the questions that most people have after a type 1 diabetes diagnosis. The series begins at episode 698 in your podcast player, or you can go to juiceboxpodcast.com and click on Bold Beginnings in the menu. I can't thank you enough for listening. Please make sure you're subscribed or following in your audio app. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Hey, what's up, everybody? If you've noticed that the podcast sounds better and you're thinking like, how does that happen? What you're hearing is Rob at Wrong Way Recording doing his magic to these files. So if you want him to do his magic to you, wrongwayrecording.com. You got a podcast? You want somebody to edit it? You want Rob.